I don't care what any asshole at the Academy says. Animation is for everyone. And today we have The Bad Guys. So The Bad Guys is the newest film done by, come on, we've all at least heard of the studio, Dreamworks. Like, some of the biggest and best classics of at least my childhood. Like, growing up, this was my bread and butter. From Kung Fu Panda to How to Train Your Dragon to ones that some of my personal favorites, like Over the Hedge. Dreamworks Studios has been around doing animated films for years and years and years. And now, here's their newest one. From the top down and directed by a Pierre Perifel? Last name not too sure on, but Pierre I'm pretty sure. But yeah, Pierre over here, he directed this one. Technically, this is, in terms of like filmography, his directorial debut. This is his first big like animated blockbuster film that he has taken the helm on directing. But fear not, he has a massive amount of experience within the company of Dreamworks itself as an animator on such titles that I've mentioned previously as basically all the Kung Fu Panda movies. And then another one that everybody always shits on this movie, but I remember distinctly enjoying it as a kid, Monsters vs. Aliens. So other stuff, of course, short films, other Dreamworks full features, but he's been an animator there for a long time. It's cool to see them like working with people that are in-house and clearly experienced and in the studio for, this in his case, over a decade. Our rogues gallery of characters, there's quite a few people, but I suppose there's like 3 people I want to give a shout out to. Not to say that the rest of the cast doesn't do a good job, but just these are the 3 that I like to kind of be like, yo, good on you. Sam Rockwell is the voice of the main big bad wolf guy. I forgot, like, when watching the trailer, I was like, that kind of sounds like Owen Wilson, but like not quite. And no, it's just Sam Rockwell being like, hey, with the bad guy, hey, we're gonna do this. Other of note, his best friend in the group and all that, Mr. Snake, Mark Maron voiced Mr. Snake. I didn't look at the cast before going to see this movie, but I would never in a million years, if you'd put a gun to my head and you'd be like, who voiced the snake? I would have been like, oh, that infamous comedian with the glasses and the mustache of all mustaches. Like, no, I would not have guessed that Mr. Maron did Mr. Snake. Zazie Beetz, her chemistry with with Sam Rockwell's character, like, stellar. It's great. A little bit too good if you ask me, but yeah, the 3 main ones I want to give a shout out to were those guys. It's funny that they put Anthony Ramos as the Mr. Piranha. He gets a scene where he gets to scene. Like, you can't get away from that Hamilton fame, can you? But I digress. The real reason you're all here, The Bad Guys, is it any good? Has Dreamworks kept up their stride? Have they fallen short? Like, overall, in my opinion, Dreamworks' track record is mostly positive. There's, not every film is going to be a winner, but some of the more unique IPs out there and the unique titles, stuff like Shrek, right? Like reinventing a whole genre and inventing a whole like subculture of animation and all this, but like that, How to Train Your Dragon, Kung Fu Panda, like again, I'm shouting out all the obvious ones here, but like DreamWorks Studios has been making films for a hot minute, and so when I saw the trailer for this, I thought, oh, that looks good, could be decent, like, I don't know. I liked the animation style, I liked the plot idea of the trailer. It didn't make me laugh. I think it was the second trailer. There was a joke about getting a cat out of a tree. That made me laugh out loud when I saw it. It was pretty funny.
It's a cat stuck in a tree.
What does your heart tell you to do? A good person would
Smack it. Damn it. Stab it.
Saute.
stop. It's so obvious. I want you to save it.
Oh, right.
The Bad Guys is actually, I thought, really good. I thought unfortunately, it's not perfect, but it's really good. I think it further cements my faith that DreamWorks can still make good animated films. Because some studios, you wonder, And other studios, like, Sony Animation, which is really hit or miss, but can crank out some masterpieces. Rest in peace, Blue Sky. And it's a bunch of other studio. Like, animation's not always good. They can be quick cash grabs, they can be baity sequels, they can be hit or miss, but this, to see DreamWorks do like another like new IP, I say new, this is very much heavy Zootopia vibe themes and sort of in plot progression. It borrows pretty heavily from Zootopia. I like it more than Zootopia. Zootopia, I can take it or leave it. I get what they're trying to do and they do it, but I just, I don't know. It was a little bit too much for me. As I probably already said, cast is great, A+ from all of them. Quite a rogues gallery and a who's who of some Hollywood stars, and even like a couple, at least one like internet personality got to also do a voice in the movie, which is kind of cool. Like I saw the Lily Singh as the news reporter. I was like, get out of town. Like Lily Singh's over here helping to make movies. It's like watching a Free Guy and you see like Jacksepticeye and pop up on the screen. You're like, what? I personally really enjoyed the animation style in this. It's like still 3D, but it's a little departure from their normal style, kind of like it's still a 3D animation, smooth textures and all this. Hard to describe, but like it has a unique visual flair to it, kind of like what Turning Red did, like a unique design to its 3D style. I think both Turning Red, Mitchell's vs. the Machines did a very similar thing as this movie did, but I like it. I don't know. Everything is, in terms of I like the character design and I like the animation. Everything in the world is slightly exaggerated. And then when it comes to character movements, maybe people are flying around on screen doing things that obviously aren't like humanly possible, right? I don't know, this has always just been a thing for me growing up as a kid. I always like a tall, slender, sharply dressed character design, or just like a tall, slender guy who's like, whoa, and like zipping around and whatnot. So seeing, of course, the wolf, the tall, thin suit, the cool cat or whatever, and going around in hijinks, like, I don't know, it ticks all the boxes and scratches that certain part of my brain. The story's actually pretty good and solid. There's a bit of a caveat to that I'll get to in a moment, but good, solid story. Story plays it safe, but it works. Even like a moment or two here and there where it's like might evoke a little bit of emotion. I'm not out here crying in the club or anything, but I'm like, no, like that's sad. It gives you a good lesson for kids, right? The whole family can enjoy this film. Jokes across the entire spectrum here, of which both kids would like and also adults could appreciate and admire. There's no gatekeeping for either age group, if you know what I mean. The only thing that are like cons for me is I would say it was predictable. Immensely predictable, like from the get-go, like not the trailer necessarily, but like by the end of Act 1, in my head, I'm like, okay, well that's the one twist, and that's going to be the other twist, like boom. But like I said, it works, it's serviceable, it's a solid story that kind of plays it safe, not really any variations on the typical formula, so yeah, it's still formulaic, but it works. And then I knock films that do this type of stuff, and I kind of knock this film a little bit too. I get not all jokes are for everybody. I don't think it makes it any less objectively funny, but god damn it, whenever you put a fart joke, especially fart jokes, like, there is a running fart joke used in this movie. They don't milk the hell out of it. The crazy part is, it serves the plot. Like, it services the plot on multiple occasions, but there is a running fart joke in the film. I don't hate it. I don't love it. It kind of happened and I rolled my eyes, and it happened again, and then again. I was like, alright, like, okay, there's worse things in the world. There's smarter, better ways of writing this kind of stuff. And the final note that I have is that the film some animated films I'll watch and they'll resonate heavily with me. Animated films can and have had a major impact on my life and have heavily resonated with me and others, and I've held on to them for years, and I still think about them every now and then, at least once a week, a couple times a month. This film, although it's very good, and near the precipice of a near perfect film, it just doesn't like, I'm thinking about it, and I'd watch it again, definitely, but it didn't resonate with me. There was no like big huge takeaway. There was no genre defining moment. It was just really good. That's all it was. A really good, borderline fantastic animated film. I didn't love it, and I wish that it would have been like, deeper. I like it when an animated film out of nowhere can be like, oh my god, here's Up, and all of a sudden we're crying 5 minutes in, and by the end of it you're like, man, life, right? Or even Soul. I didn't love Soul, but there were definitely moments that resonated with me in that film. Which is kind of what film is breaking down to for me at this point. I've seen so many fucking films, and I've analyzed so much about them, that films do one of two things to be in my good book. Either the film as a whole resonates with me, and I'm thinking about it for years to come, or the film is still really good, but just has moments that resonate with me. And with this film, it didn't really have like moments that resonated or an entire film as itself. It didn't resonate. It was just really good. Fuck the people at the Oscars who were like, "Oh, the adults gotta grit and bear it." Animation is like video games for me. They're all just a medium for what you're trying to get across. And sure, you know, some people will use animation in like Cocomelon terms and just be like, "Okay, this is literally designed for kids to educate." But the animation and the cartoons or whatever that I knew growing up were much deeper than that. It was all the cartoons of my youth, whether on television or in film or just in period. 95 to 98% of the time, they were created to serve a better purpose, to be a film enjoyed by all, not just kids. They're a respected medium for me in terms of art, narrative, design. They like anime, right? There's less limitations, fewer, on what you can do with that medium, right? So it's like I always respect and love animation. I'm glad to see people are still putting in the effort and making some good animated film. So props to everybody who worked on The Bad Guys, and God, the fan fiction that I know is coming. Oh boy. I kind of just changed my mind on the fly here because I'm really thinking about it and I'm like, we're not breaking any barriers here, but I would give The Bad Guys a very solid 4 out of 5. I'd give it a solid 4 out of 5. It's a really good film. It's borderline fantastic, but I'd say like really good. Worth a watch in theaters? Yeah, sure. I'm a loon who goes to see all the movies by himself. So I don't know if I could recommend doing that, but if you're with some friends and you like animated films, or it's a family night or whatever, or you're just looking to see what DreamWorks' newest project is, it's worth it in theaters, I thought. Otherwise, you know, stream it later, but you won't lose any time or sleep over it. So thank you guys and gals so much for watching. That was my review of The Bad Guys. I'm curious to see what DreamWorks will do in the future, but in the meantime, if they keep it up, at least at this level, I'll be happy, and I think most people will be too. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next episode of whatever movie I review. Goodbye, Travelers.